Since its inception in 1972, Kings Island's seen a lot of very popular rides go. Here's our top 9. Hello, everybody. Alongside Don Helbig, I'm Ryan Sir, and this is Tower Topics.
Tower Topics is a podcast by Kings Island fans for Kings Island fans, because that's who we are and that's who we care about.
Let's kick this off by thanking our Prestige members. Thank you, Aaron Bort, 330T, Logan Lipper, Brian Hauser, Lil Mac 21, Miss Mandy 1983, Jacob Fix, Stephen Hornack, Eric Grau, Ian Crawford, Damon Barnes, and Dustin Jackson. Thank you guys so much for supporting Tower Topics at the highest level. That's the Prestige level. If you want to be involved in Tower Topics, there's a link in the description. Members get early access to the videos, exclusive content, exclusive live streams, and some tiers even get some free stuff.
Ryan, it's this time of the year, you're about 6-8 weeks away from the park opening, that I always sit back and kind of reminisce about some of the rides that used to be at Kings Island, some of my favorites. And I know you have some of your favorites that are no longer there too. So we thought we'd share with our listeners, what we think are 9 rides that we really miss. And then afterward, after you hear our list, we'd like you to leave a comment and, which Kings Island rides that are long gone but not forgotten do you miss? So we'll kick it off, Ryan. Let's start with the Vortex, 1987 to 2019. They just, that spot just being vacant there. Every time I'm at the park and you see that vacant spot, you just think about, what the Vortex represented when it was built. It had sending you through 6 inversions. No coaster had done that before. It just looked beautiful. One of the best coasters to photograph if you're into photography. So yeah, I certainly missed that ride.
Yeah, I mean, in the Vortex, I remember when I was little thinking that anybody that would ride the Vortex would be clinically insane, and I didn't know where they found all these people to fill all the trains. But as an adult, I really enjoyed just looking at the Vortex. I mean, if you look at the photo here, this is obviously from probably the Eiffel Tower, but that view from maybe across from Backlot Stunt Coaster, just the perfect picture.
It was great to watch from the Eiffel Tower.
I wish that they had given it the treatment the Loch Ness Monster got, where they fixed a track, got new trains, and so on. But as it stood, Vortex is definitely a ride that I don't necessarily miss riding, but I definitely miss having it.
Do you miss the sound of the train going up the lift when you're in Coney-Wall?
Oh yeah, I mean, that's so quintessential. That's is it ISMR, the audio that's like therapeutic. I miss that. I miss watching it. Because no other ride has such a violent noise to it. That's just of just steel hitting each other.
You're at the La Rosa's too in Rivertown. You're out there, outside sitting at the table, and Vortex is whizzing by. I mean, that just added so much to the atmosphere.
It certainly did, and dearly missed. You mentioned several times on the show that you believe that in hindsight they would have spent the money to repair Vortex rather than.
I do feel that. I do feel that.
Do you think that if it weren't for COVID, there would be something in the Vortex plot by now?
No, because I knew when the decision was made for this that they didn't have anything on the board for that spot. So no, I don't think that changed anything, because Orion was coming in 2020. You weren't going to get in the next couple of years another $30-something million coaster. So no, I don't think anything would have been there. They might say that delayed things, whatever, but no, I don't think so.
Okay, next up, everybody's favorite Defunct ride. Everybody's.
It seems like it. Phantom Theater, 1992 to 2002. I really, the characters, I love them in this attraction. The usher, I thought, he was really cool. So this was one of my favorite all-time attractions at Kings Island. You mentioned, everybody else's too. I would try to ride it every time I went. It didn't always work out that way, but I always wanted to ride it at least once. What about you?
Yeah, absolutely love this ride. The photo that I chose, the more that I'm looking at it, it's like I really probably should have picked a picture of the Maestro or something. But this was from Daffy's website. Daffy is like the ace of dark rides. And I had never, I mean, obviously I'd seen this view before, but I'd never seen this actual photo. So this is a great shot of, I guess we'll call them doom buggies, lowercase in case Disney's listening. Going into this is the turntable where you load it and stuff. I thought this was just a really cool view because this is a view that probably a lot of people that watch the show haven't seen before.
No, and
But
well themed attraction.
beautifully done. I do remember in the last couple of years that the animatronics squeaked quite a bit. And so when they announced they were replacing it with Scooby-Doo and the Haunted Castle, what was sold to everybody was that no two rides are going to be the same since it's an interactive dark ride. While technically true, it was not an upgrade from Phantom Theater. Phantom Theater was unique. It was a work of art, and it's sorely missed.
Moving on, number 3, the Enchanted Voyage, one of my all-time favorite rides, Brian. When this first opened, I mean, you talk about Disney caliber. This was an amazing attraction. And it was something that, my dad was not a big ride person. He was not going to ride the roller coasters. It was tough to get him to even go on the log flume. I mean, he would do it, but just that drop on the log flume would get to him. So he wasn't a big ride person. He didn't like heights, didn't like going up in the Eiffel Tower. But this was the one ride that my dad would ride with me and my brother and my sister. So a lot of memories of riding with the whole family, my mom too, on this attraction. So yeah, I mean, I miss it for a lot of reasons. Just the attention to detail, the theming, the storyline with it, and everything. I think that when you look at all the rides in Kings Island's history, this one far and away, one of my favorites.
I never got to ride it, but I will say that it is legendary. A lot of things, and it's funny because we had Taryn Harrison, the first ever guest at Kings Island, on a previous episode, and she kept on referring to this ride as the Small World.
Well, I mean, it was similar in some ways to that.
It was,
there
and
was some
you know what?
similarities.
I bet she's not alone in it, where people just draw like, oh, they're basically the same thing, which is putting Kings Island's ride on par with Disney rides.
Yeah. So this was from 72 to when the park opened to 1991. Now half of that was the Smurfs Enchanted Voyage. It had a 10-year run with that, but it just was just something a guest of all ages could do and enjoy. And that song from the Enchanted Voyage, that gets in your head, and I can still remember that like I wrote it yesterday.
Yeah.
And then you would come out of the ride, when you're coming back, to unboard, and you'd have the snail, saying "Have a happy day," and just so many memories with it.
Yeah, may it rest in peace. Next up, Sky
The
Ride.
Sky Ride, yes, 72 to 79. I wish it was still there. Miss it very much. That was one of my first memories of Kings Island, was coming through the front gate, stepping onto International Street, and you saw these, the colorful Sky Ride, and going across International Street, past the Eiffel Tower. It was fun. I wish we still had that.
So, Hershey Park recently announced that they're retiring their Sky Ride. Kings Island's gotten rid of theirs. Cedar Point got rid of one of their two. Is the Sky Ride, do you think it's an expensive ride to operate or maintain, and that's why they're becoming more and more rare? Because I'd like to see one added to Kings Island, frankly.
Love to see it added to Kings Island. The cards that you ride in, I think that Kings Island had the best. And maybe that's because it's the first one I did. I don't know. But it was at Coney Island. So one of my first rides that I have a memory of riding when I was a child was at Coney Island with this. And I don't know, Ryan. I mean, yeah, it's there's a lot of maintenance, with it. There's things with wind. I mean, we see now with how often Windseeker or Drop Tower don't run with the wind. That wasn't always the case. Back then it would still, for the most days it was running in that. But now with everything in place, how often would it actually be operating every single day? So maybe there's part of that would go into it, why they wouldn't bring back a Sky Ride. But I'd love to see it. Yeah, great visuals of the park from up there. Great view, aerial view of like Coney Mall and the Racer. You'd go over top of the Enchanted Voyage. There is still a remnant of it in Planet Snoopy with the gift shop. That was one of the load stations there. The other one was over in what is now Adventure Port, where you have Cargo Local, Soul Spin. It was right in that area where the other one was. But, it was just always kind of, fun to go on that and look out and see the park.
There's also a footer from the Sky Ride that's kind of sticking out of the pond at an adventure port that's covered up by a boat, an overturned boat.
Yes. Yes. Yeah,
That's
that's
a
still
fun
there. So
that's a
it's still
fun little
remnant there.
factoid.
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember this was one of the first rides that got transported to Kings Island from Coney Island. That Labor Day, September 6th, 1971, Coney closes the next day. September 7th, they're dismantling the Sky Ride, and it was on its way to Kings Island.
Yeah. Next up, my dear Flying Eagles.
This ride was, I mean, it's so simple, but yet it meant a lot to so many guests.
Mhm.
I think part of it, you got to create your own experience, with it. Uh, there was always, you had the regulars that really knew how to snap it and put on a show for guests that were watching. It had different locations around the park. Where it ended up isn't where its first spot was, but it was another ride, one of my first from Coney Island. So I remembered, being called the Flying Scooters before the Flying Eagles. But just
Mhm.
after they named it the Flying Eagles and rebranded it that way and painted it, I mean, those cars look beautiful with the Eagles.
They really do. I've got such fond memories. I met some of my best friends in the world in line for the Flying Eagles. We used to do what we called Snap Fest between 9
Hmm.
and 10 every night. And
Oh yeah,
um,
yeah. And it
you know,
was, yeah. I mean, it was something that my daughter had just mastered the art of snapping in 2004. It's last year, and I remember they weren't going to say anything about this. It was
mhm.
just going to be gone. And the Cincinnati Post got wind of it and did a story. I was in Houston with the Cincinnati Mighty Ducks. We were playing, starting the season there, so we had a road trip, and I remember hearing about it because I was contacted by the Cincinnati Post to, get my thoughts on it and everything. And I told my wife, I said, when we land back in Cincinnati, I said, have Maria ready. I said, we got to go to Kings Island because I came back the day of the last day that it was operating, and I said, we got to go to Kings Island and get in the final rides on the Flying Eagles. She loved this ride. I remember she was in tears after gave its last rides, and just a lot of memories. That's what Kings Island's about too, is the memories. And I
Mhm.
don't know that there's too many rides that created more special memories among family and friends than the Flying Eagles.
Yeah. Now, if you recall, I'll have to show you this because I know that both you and Maria signed it, but they uh, they created like I don't remember who exactly made it, but somebody made like a book out of the last couple days, and and that's where everybody signed it and wrote little notes to it and stuff. And I've
Mhm.
actually got it. Somebody took the book and put it in like bound it and stuff and put a cover on it, and I've got that. I actually just came across it a few weeks ago, but both you and your daughter signed it,
I
and
remember signing it. I do remember that. I did not put my name in the ring of their hat to be drawn for the last ride. I wanted to watch it.
I was
I'd ridden
honored.
it. I'd ridden it a lot. Yeah, well, there's a lot of people that wonder, that you were rigged. That's how you got on. KI Central people got on because it was rigged. I don't know if it was rigged, wasn't rigged, whatever. But I felt that a lot of the right people got on the last ride. But I wanted to watch it cycle one more time, so I chose not to even try to enter to go on it because I wanted to just take it in one more time and watching it cycle and watching everybody do their thing with the snapping.
Yeah, well, it wasn't rigged to my knowledge, at least, because if you recall, you just walked up and you grabbed a piece of paper out of a hat, and if it had a picture of the Flying Eagle tub on it, then you got to ride. So I don't know how you'd rig that, but I was the only person from KIC on it, if I recall.
Well,
Um,
it was kind of like that scene from Shawshank Redemption when they were going to pull names of people that were going to get that work project of tarring the roof, and it happened to
mhm.
be all of Red's friends. that happened to be the ones that were drawn. So it was kind of like that. A lot of KI Central people I remember being on it, but no, there was they had some flyer addicts. There was that group, the flyer
Flyer
addicts.
Addicts Anonymous, yeah.
Yeah, that they got on it. So it was just one of those rides that created so many memories. And mine went back to the Coney days, and I still miss it, even though they have Franklin's Flyers. It's not the same thing. And I really think when you look back at the different rides that have left Kings Island over the years, this one is the one there was no excuse for it. That ride, because of its history, starting out at Society's Coney Island, it should still be there.
Well, speaking of poor decisions on removing rides, let's move on to antique cars, specifically lace taxis.
Yeah. 1972 to 2004, removed to make way for Backlot Stunt Coaster. Now, at that time, this was announced earlier in the year that everybody knew this was going to be leaving, but nobody knew about the Flying Eagles. But this was, again, I mean, it really added a lot of charm to Kings Island. You walk behind the Eiffel Tower, and then it's got like the white picket fence, and you see the old cars. I think they lost some charm when this ride was removed.
I agree. Now, we have it down as 1972 to 2004, but I believe that the Lace Taxi side, which would have been approximately where kind of Backlot is now, that side of it, that closed much earlier, didn't it?
Well, the other side they didn't run the last couple of years. The other side,
and that was the side that was called Lace Taxis, correct?
No, the one on the Coney Mall side was, and then the other one was the other name with it.
I think just antique cars, right?
Right.
Yeah. So
something livery or something like that.
Maybe. Anyway, yeah, not much to say about this. You guys know what antique cars are like.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that we have are fantastic. They really are. But this really took you through a journey.
Little shorter track on the new ones. I think the cars are a little tighter. Not as not as much room for the legs and that. But I'm glad we got it back at Kings Island, because you have to have an antique car ride when you're in an amusement park. You just have to.
Most certainly. Next up,
the Tumble Bug, 1972 to 1985. Another one of the rides that I grew up with, starting to ride it at Coney Island. This would have been my first maybe, ride that had some semblance of a roller coaster that I ever rode. I liked, as a kid, with my brother and sister. I mean, we're all real small in that. We get in and, you slide around in that in it. But it was a nice fit in Coney Mall. It was next to the racer entrance. And I wish we still had that. Kennywood has a Tumble Bug, but it's called the Turtle. But they still have one. So, it would be rare if it was still out there at Kings Island. I wish they hadn't, taken it out for Skylab. It's, again, one of those rides that it was just part of the, the history and the tradition going back to Coney, those first, several years at Kings Island. I did happen to get to ride it the last day of the 1985 season. I had been told that it was going to be removed to make way for the new Coney Mall rides. There was going to be 3 new attractions in Coney Mall that year. So it has a special place for me. I still, it's hard for me to ride the racer and be walking toward the entrance, and then off to the left, not be picturing in my mind the Tumble Bug.
Yeah. Wish I'd gotten to ride it. I rode the little kitty version, Boo Boo's Baggage Claim. I do remember that.
Yeah. But maybe someday someone will want to build these rides again, and Kings Island will purchase one. And
looking at you, Larson, this is right up your alley.
And yeah, I mean, there's other people out there that I think would be able to do this. But I think if they were to get a new modern one built, I think that it would be very popular at Kings Island. And I think that would be a family thrill ride.
Yeah. Make it like a Giga Tumble Bug.
No, make it the same exact thing. Make it the same thing.
No,
Uh,
no, I'm kidding. I mean, the adult sized one seems like it would be really cool. It'd be cool as part of like a ride package or something, you
yeah,
know?
I think Ryan, if you go to Kennywood, if you go there with me this summer, whatever, we'll ride the turtle, and you'll
Hmm.
see what I mean by this needs to be at Kings Island again. They need to find a way, find someone that can build them a tumble bug, bring it back.
Yeah.
If you want the tumble bug to come back, leave it in the comments. Let us know. I'd love to see it.
Let us know. Let's do a quick in memorandum because you mentioned it for Skylab. I did get to ride Skylab. It did not make our top 9 list, but uh, those enterprise models are so fun. They're becoming more and more rare, but I remember riding it a couple times. But I remember even as a kid thinking that ride is always down.
Down a lot. I liked it at night in terms of how it looked, but I didn't like it during the day because again, I terribly missed the tumble bug, being right there. And that's my earliest Kings Island memories was approaching the racer, and there's the tumble bug, and then the tumble bug ID sign. I mean, it's still very vivid in my mind.
Yeah. Next up, I
King
I
Cobra.
feel so old having to explain what King Cobra was to a lot of people because to me it was like yesterday that I rode this thing.
Yeah, it was an interesting ride. 1984, 2001. The first stand-up coaster in the United States. I was among the first riders on media day for it. Remember, it rained a little bit that day, but yeah, it was an interesting ride. And at that time, it was a good fit for where it was located. It had that kind of jungle feel to it a little bit, so I enjoyed it. I would try to ride it, a couple times a week around my racer and beast rides.
If you had to choose between this and like Mantis, which one do you
Oh,
like
King
better?
Cobra, King Cobra.
Me too. Because
It had
on
that one part too where you would, where there was a little some. If you hadn't ridden it before, there were some surprises.
Mhm.
The little bunny hill hops was fun, coming back into the station, and it had
Yeah.
that one spot where, you go down and it would kind of like tilt to the side a little bit, real quick. Uh, yeah, a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think honestly, and this is gonna admit this is the old man coming out of me, but I think that like Mantis and Green Lantern and all those rides, which are basically clones, they were just way too intense, and it was a chore to ride it rather than like a pleasure or a thrill. While this one was just right. Now granted, when I first this is my first looping coaster, and I was tall enough that my head got boxed around quite a bit between the restraints. But one thing that sticks out to me in this picture is that look at all these people that are returning to the station in like a squatting position because the ride would kind of float. It wasn't like a surf coaster. It didn't openly go up and down, but it would sometimes would lock into position where you'd be dangling off the ground, or it would more commonly it would compress a little bit, and then everybody's in kind of like a squatting position. So this
Yeah,
kind of brought back memories with this photo here.
I kind of wish I'd ridden it a little bit more in the late '90s before it left and had gone over the 1,000 ride mark on it. I finished with 808. But I really enjoyed it, and now that I'm looking at the picture there that you have up, if you're watching this on YouTube,
Mhm.
I'm going to put on my X in the next couple of days. I'll post a picture from Media Day where I'm getting ready to ride, and you've got the Togo people, all around. Uh, there's Carl Eichelman was there. They didn't at that time. It wasn't open to the world like they do now with inviting all the coaster enthusiasts. There weren't the
Right.
influencers and YouTubers and anything like that. So it was Carl Icahn, myself, a couple other people. The ACE president was there. But amongst us in the picture is there's a couple of Smurfs in that picture. Like, okay, that's the year that the Smurfs came, and they were talking about them being new to the park as well. So trying to tie it all in together. But it's just such an odd picture that you see all these people and from the manufacturer and the news media and then
Yeah.
here's a Smurf, Papa Smurf's in the picture. So if you follow me on X, look for that picture in a couple of days.
Yeah, you got to find that. Next up, here's one I did not get to ride. Really wish I could have though. Screaming
Kings
Demon.
Island's first ever looping coaster was the Screaming Demon. Had a nice 10-year run. Um, 77 to 87. Ended up at Camden Park. Got to ride it a few times there. So yeah, it was first time that I'd gone upside down on a roller coaster was this. The thing I remembered most about the Screaming Demon was not going through the loop and you went forward and then you came back through in reverse. It was the steps you had to climb to ride it. That part was not fun. Climbing up whatever it was, 10 flights of steps or whatever to get up to the load station, the load platform.
Yeah, totally. So once again, tell us your favorite Defunct ride. Was it one of the ones on our list, or did we miss something? Leave a comment. Let us know.
Yeah, and what memories you have of it. Like for me, like I was talking about the Tumble Bug. I mean, I can't ride the racer without in my mind seeing the Tumble Bug off to the left of the entrance. So do you have anything like that too, where you walk around Kings Island and some of your favorite rides that are no longer there, do you still see them? And can you still picture them there?
Yeah. Let's move on to a segment we like to call Buy or Sell.
All right. For coaster stock this year, are you buying or selling this, Ryan? So for coaster stock this year, event organizers will enforce a ban on participants wearing Tower Topics t-shirts.
Dang. Somebody really sent that. I'm going to sell simply because it hasn't been a problem yet, but I think that if a few dozen people wear Tower Topics t-shirts, then next year they're going to have some sort of dress code where it's like you can either
wear a actual Kings Island shirt or an event shirt, something like that. So so you're gonna sell, right?
I'm gonna sell. Yeah. What do you think?
I'm gonna buy that they'd love to, but sell that they won't. No, they won't. But like you said, if they see a lot of them there, that's going to be kind of frowned on. They're not going to like that. So if you have a Tower Topics t-shirt to go in the coaster stock, be sure to wear it.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's move on.
Speaking of t-shirts.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of t-shirts.
Yeah,
you get a Tower Topics t-shirt. Yes, if you don't have one and you're going to coaster stock, you need a Tower Topics t-shirt. Just $22. That includes your shipping. They come in a wicked green, any size that you want. Send us a direct message on our X, which is Tower_Topics. Give us a follow while you're there. Or you can send me an email at donhelbig@themeparksbydon.com. I'll send you the QR code once the transaction goes through. It just takes a matter of days to get your shirt.
Perfect. Yeah, $22 including shipping. It might be required apparel for coaster stock one day. You never know. Sometimes the tides change, and all of a sudden everybody loves Tower Topics in the park. You just never know.
You never know. That's right.
That's true. So you got to hedge against it. Hey, let's move on to some Six Flags headline news. So this spring, get ready for a massive transformation coming to the USA section of Six Flags over Georgia. The park is going back to its retro Americana roots with remodeled restaurants, refreshed retail, enhanced theming, and more. DJ's Diner will be given a complete interior overhaul. The new look is brighter, sleeker, and packed with mid-century flair, featuring fresh flooring, stylish furniture, and vibrant decor, and a scheme that will leave you craving a classic all-American burger. DJ's Diner isn't the only restaurant getting a makeover this season. Say goodbye to Daddy-O's Barbecue and hello to Firehouse Barbecue. The fiery new eatery is undergoing a complete transformation, both inside and out. Step into a cozy, small-town firehouse with authentic decor sourced from local fire stations. The walls will be adorned with firefighter helmets, vintage alarm bells, fire hose reels, and more, all set against the backdrop of bold, rustic charm. Both DJ's Diner and Firehouse Barbecue will feature a new service style called Crew Serve, designed to speed up the lines and keep your food fresher than ever. It's all part of their mission to deliver friendly, fast, and fun service that's sure to leave you coming back for more. The focus isn't just on the restaurants. One of the park's favorite retail spots, Attitudes, is also receiving a complete interior and exterior refresh. That's cool. I'm very curious about the crowd serve thing. I wonder what that concept is all about.
Yeah, that was interesting when I saw that. I am excited about what they're doing at Six Flags Over Georgia. I mean, it's not a new ride or anything, but for me, I think there's a lot of reason to be excited about it if you're going to be visiting Six Flags Over Georgia. One of the things for me, when the merger was announced and went through, that I was excited about for the future was going to be based on what I had experienced at Kings Island, Cedar Point, Carowinds in recent years, Kings Dominion in recent years, was the dining experience was going to be elevated at the Legacy Six Flags parks, and we're seeing that starting to take place. We saw a little bit of it in Chicago, Great America last year.
Mm-hmm.
Toward the fall, some different things changed in that. They got some new menu items in that this year. But Six Flags Over Georgia at one time was one of my top 2 or 3 parks that I love going to. And they really had good food back in the 80s and early 90s. Got away from it a little bit, but I really like what the new Six Flags is doing. They putting a focus on that dining experience, not just changing the menus, but investing and refurbishing these different dining locations, giving them a fresh new look in that, and it makes me want to go visit Six Flags Over Georgia this year just to check out the food scene.
Absolutely. Yeah. So check them out this summer. All right.
Right.
We'll be right back with the listener questions.
All right. The first question comes from Jim from Cincinnati. He says, "Hey, Ryan and Don, I'm curious to know where and what your first dining plan meal will be this year, surmising the menu won't change from last year."
So we're assuming that there's not going to be a new. Well, I don't think he's suggesting that there's not going to be any new food items, but
no. He's just saying based on our favorites from last year, what's going to be your first?
Right. Pub burger. It's got to be.
Jim, I can't answer your question right now because I have not renewed my season pass with the dining plan, so I really can't give you an answer on that. I would think, though, it would be a pub burger. I thought that was, of all the things that I ate in the park last year, I thought that was, kind of my go-to, my favorite. If not the pub burger, I would probably do something at Coney Barbecue. But yeah, I would think pub burger.
All right. Next question, Stacy from Erlanger, Kentucky. Stacy said, "Every time I visit Sioux City, I can't help but notice a strong urine smell around the pools, especially the wave pool. It's something I haven't experienced at other water parks like Kentucky Kingdom or Disney water parks. Do they use different chemicals or filtration methods? I generally want to enjoy Sioux City, but it's hard to shake that smell." It's definitely not urine you're smelling. The smell is very genetic. So, for example,
Yeah, I think you're right, Ryan, about that. That it's not. I think it's something that I don't think there's any like evidence that would point that's the exact cause of it.
right.
Or why it would be more strong there than at other parks. They all rely heavily on different, chlorine or other disinfectants, effectives to maintain the hygiene there. I think you're also talking about the different oils and things that come off people's bodies, and that kind of contribute to that as well. But for me, I think Disney gets a lot of people there, so that's going to be a little different. But I think when you're talking about Kentucky Kingdom or Kings Island, I think you're just having a lot more people in Soak City Water Park on every given day too. So, if you have 100 people in your wave pool at Kentucky Kingdom, you probably have 300 at Kings Island on any given day. So I think that also kind of contributes to it as well. But the water, I can tell you, I mean, the water, I mean, there's chlorine, it's clean, you can get in, so I wouldn't worry about that part of it. But I understand, where she's trying to like shake that smell and everything to it to go into the water. I know there are people that feel that way.
Yeah, it's I understand where it's coming from. I've not experienced that, but hopefully it's different this year because they are doing some construction.
I have a couple of times, like last year I went out to the Island Smokehouse.
Mm-hmm.
I was getting some chicken wings, and I was walking over to kind of survey the area where the new River Racers is going to go, and then walking past Breakers Bay there. I mean, you can kind of pick that up a little bit. So I know what she's talking about. but it's not what you think it is, like you said.
Great.
Next, we have Basil from Cornwall, Ontario. He says, Kings Island is my favorite amusement park in the States. So, of course, I love this podcast. Well, thanks, Basil. My question is, has anyone ever attempted to commandeer the boat docked in the water behind Enrique's? Sure, it would probably earn you a lifetime ban from the park, but just imagine the YouTube views. You guys, seen as the evil empire by Kings Island officials, commandeering the vessel with park security in hot pursuit across the water in Adventure Port. It's the kind of high stakes action that would give Tower Topics international fame. That is something that I remember. I don't know who exactly I was talking to about that, but
It was me.
Was it you? Because I remember saying if somebody should take off on the boat or something, that you can do it. But yeah, you'd get banned if you did that.
That boat wasn't cheap too. That's a real boat that they bought. Cost thousands of dollars for theming.
We could do a podcast episode from there. Maybe they let us do that. But no, I think that's it would. Can you imagine people gathered around watching? In Adventure Port, all lined up watching security, chase the boat, trying to capture you and I if we commandeered the boat. I mean, that would I agree that it would definitely get a lot of YouTube views.
I think it would too, but we wouldn't have much.
But don't do it. Yeah.
We both got banned from the park.
Yeah. Don't. Yeah. And if you're hearing this, don't do it. Just don't.
Yeah. Not your boat. All right. Next question. Barry from Milford, Ohio. Is Don, now a retired PR professional, contributing articles to the Sandusky Register, the PR equivalent of retirees in other fields taking on part-time jobs as a Walmart greeter?
Why do people keep saying or assuming that I'm retired?
He said retired PR professional.
I'm not a retired. Yeah, I'm not a retired PR professional either. I'm what you would call a relaxed PR professional. And what I mean by that is I kind of, pick and choose my spots when to do some PR work. I still do some freelance projects. There has been some in the industry that I've done, so I'm still active that way. Am I doing it in a, role that I was doing before, where I was doing it for Kings Island, or I was doing it for a hockey team? No, but not retired, still active in it. But I would use the term relaxed PR professional.
A relaxed PR professional. I like that.
Yeah, still active, but not as not full bore and not reliant on just that for my living.
All right. Anyway, I'm Ryan Sterling with Don Helbig, and this is Tower Topics.